Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. As always, I'm Buzz Hoon. I'm the host of the podcast, and today I have the pleasure of talking with Glenn Taylor, a 1993 graduate. Is that right, Glenn? Has it been since 1993?
It was yesterday. It was yesterday.
Wow.
Some days I go, yeah.
So first of all, I appreciate that you got your purple on. That's terrific. Nice job. And tell us where you are and what's going on.
Currently, I am an engineer system specialist for charter communications. I deal within video, uplink, downlink. I kind of got into the technical side in project management because I had that keen building relationships that I learned a lot with the communication and broadcasting entity. In the way interim, I had started your TV path and going down that, and I found, or someone found me and said, you'd be a great project manager because you're a people person. But this still allowed me to do the sports on the weekends then, because I will tell you, when you do get into sports or you do get into broadcasting, it is your life. There is no set hours or holidays, and if you like days off, maybe broadcasting's not your deal. And I did that year in and year out. But once you get a family and get married, I kind of looked for that avenue where I could still be within the company, which was Comcast, NBC, Universal. And long, it seems when we buy somebody, it gets longer. But I was working nights, weekends, holidays. And then I thought the one holiday I'll have off, Thanksgiving, the NBC or NFL has, the football on Thursday. So we're not running that. So, and then lo and behold, the Canadians don't celebrate that. So you got all this hockey, and I'm like, oh my God. So, don't hold me on a fact of that, but I just remember doing hockey. So if you just remember, if you like days off, maybe broadcasting is not your forte. So, and I've been in that project management now 15, 16 years with 20 some years prior to that. Did you want me to talk about the prior years?
We'll get to all that fun stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, we're just going to start nice and easy. And I appreciate that you had mentioned that. One of the things as an educator, when I talk to young people about their interest in sports broadcasting, especially, I say, our games happen at night most of the time, or on the weekends. So if you're busy at night and on the weekends, this is not really going to be the job for you. So you need to be prepared for a flexible schedule.
Yes. Yeah. That good old Tuesday at 3:00. Oh, what do you want to know?
Yeah. So let me ask you, Glenn, when you were a younger person, did you grow up in the Quad City area? Were you from Milan? Is that right?
My hometown was the Rock Island, Milan area.
Okay.
I lived there till I was 17. And when I turned 18, I took a couple classes at their local community college, which I would have loved to have Western Quad City campus, but that was, far dream. So at Blackhawk College, took a couple classes, and I was just a mediocre student. And I kind of said to myself, wow, if I'm just going to, if these are going to be the grades and these are going to be what I'm shooting for, what's going to drive me in my life? I don't want to just be that average. So do I keep working at the job that I had in the Quad Cities, or do I look another path? And I looked that other path, and I'm so glad I did, because they paid 100% to Western Illinois in a veterans grant. I spent 6 to 8 years in the Navy, 2 reserves. 2 reserves were while I was at Western. I did get called up to Desert Storm and had to make all kinds of arrangements to go off to that and then come back to Western. But what that taught me, being what they call non-traditional student, I was more focused. I think a lot of professors appreciated that you had taken this time out in your life. But then when you came back, the only way the Navy would pay for the class is you had to get a C or better. So I loved the early warning system at Western, where, I just couldn't get geology. So it was just like, I'm getting a what? And you went to see the dean or whoever, and you buy the rock sample, and you wind up passing the class. That's another story and another time. But I think I really appreciated all the professors and things like that, because they knew I was there, and I've already been on the younger path and got that wild side out of your system, so to speak, and really concentrated on the school aspect, because this is, going to be your next adventure. As soon as you graduate, it's going to be that when I think I was only there for 3 years, because I had already had a year of military quote credits from the University of Arizona that I never stepped foot on the campus. But I really appreciated it. And I met a lot of professors that were prior veterans. One professor over in, I think it was one of the departments, he was on one of the same ships I was on, and just to come, at different times, but we had the same stories and we bonded. And then anytime I had that kind of question, I always knew I could go to that person, because I know you're not there to fail. That's what I loved also about Western, was that you could go to a professor, and if you went to them early enough and just said, I am struggling, I'm not getting this, what can I do? They're going to help. But don't come to them 2 days before the class ends and say, hey, can you give me a little help here? Which I've seen. And in twofold, I felt bad for the person, but then again, they did it to themselves. So,
yeah, the struggle is trying to find what's your path. And so, when did you find out that the media was something that you were interested in and something you could succeed in?
So in the military, I did uplink, downlink of, it was kind of like message and radio and type traffic on a classified level. And I learned all about that, how it went up and got sent from here to there. And I had the technical aspect, because the video travels roughly around the same paths. The ionosphere down, back, and I don't want to get too technical where people just turned it off. And I had that aspect from the military. And I said, well, what degree do I want to go for? And I loved sports at the time still. And I kept looking through different universities and their paths. And I know Westerns was kind of in its infancy, buying that bread truck or whatever that was we had up back that leaked toxic gases. And but before, I think I did tell you, we had to haul all that equipment up to the booth. And then we had this little map, and do I plug it in here? And it was hours, and the football game kicked off, and we hadn't even started taping. Long story. It was when, so I don't want to say that it was because of the president, but the president stopped tailgating. I forget who the president at that time was, but it was getting out of hand. People were just whipping it up and stuff. And it kind of forced me to go to the football game, you'd hang out in the parking lot with your friends and have a few whatevers. And then you'd go into the game, and then you didn't care and you left. But this made me get to the game, and I saw, oh my God, look at these kids, the cameras and the things. I said, that's an interesting path. And I remember going to talking to Sharon and saying, I think I'd be interested in this, because I already have how the feed gets from A to B to Z, but I don't want to follow the engineering path. I want to use my talking skills. I want to use, can I put that together in a package? And lo and behold, it just fit right in. I was station manager at WHEN at Henninger, the radio station. So I got that position, and did some DJing, and I didn't know if I wanted to go radio or I wanted to go TV. But I think most of the friends that I had in the department, I was just loving video.
Wow, this is a great history lesson, because a lot of times people ask me, how long have we been doing sports broadcasting? And I've talked to Sharon Evans about this before, and she's like, well, you don't really start paying attention when you start something. Like, you never think to yourself, okay, this is the start of it, and I'm going to take note of it. But I know that you were probably one of the first groups of students that she and Sam Edsel would take out to start doing football games, and I think maybe some baseball games. Is that right? Do you remember doing those?
I remember she would actually send me, I don't know if it was because I was older and more disciplined,
right?
Nothing to say about youngsters, but you send them out with an assignment, and I knew to get it done. It was like a military mission. She sent me and one other individual, still best friends with this guy today. And we went out to Northern Iowa and filmed a little video package, like you were there, and at that time you didn't have where you could just load a disc in and send the video off. We actually had to drive back. And we got good at that. And then Sharon's like, would you like another? So I remember traveling on the team bus with the Leatherneck football team. And we went down to what is Missouri State now. And we did that same thing. And I remember having to room with, not my buddy, we got split up, and I get the sports, I think it was one of the coaches. And, he's telling me all about these plays and stuff. And I go, I don't know if you want to tell me about this, but that's where I first got that feeling of being part of the media, going in the press box, meeting the sports information director, turning around and meeting, all these other people. And then they were giving our boundaries, like, okay, during the game, you can film from this to this, do not go past this. And it wasn't really filming the whole game. It was just kind of like a little highlights package, so that when we came back, the sports team who was doing the news could actually have video footage from the next, hey, we were down there. Here's a Leatherneck pass. And I see now that you've got a whole show. But this was before that infancy, before you had a coach's show, before you had anything. So it was pretty interesting. And I don't know if I kind of realized on that now, wow, I got those assignments. Not because I was like, oh, you're doing a great job. I think it was because I was a little bit more mature. I was in my 20s, pushing 24, 25. And she knew that I could take that equipment down there, get the job done, come back. And I really appreciate that, because that opened my eyes to that traveling type media, quote, circus, and being with the other, local TV people. Who are you with,
You felt like a professional, which is
yes. You can
much
that
appreciated.
First day you get that credential, you're like, oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some other memories you have from WIU. You talk a little bit about let's talk about your friends and who you hung out with in Salee Hall, and other professors you might remember, or stories.
Yeah. I was very focused there. I didn't really go out a lot. Unless it was with a group of folks that, either were younger or my same age. They put me in Tanner Hall because that's your or I don't know if it still is, but your non-traditional dorm, people 21 and older that, have their own room and they're in their own little space and they can do whatever. I do have one story where it was so loud in the dorms, and I didn't want to be that average student and go to the library and study. And I remember we had that common area at Salee Hall that you could just go in and study. I did that a few times, but one crazy time, I think my senior year, I just gathered up all my flashcards. And what makes me at peace is a ballpark. And I knew the Cardinals were playing, and I bought a ticket center field, and it was one of those average Tuesday night games. And I literally studied for, I think it was like sociology or one of those classes. It was just a lot of memorization. And I'm out there in center field in my own, some people go to the woods, some people go to the mountains here in Colorado. I go to the ballpark just to get away. And I remember studying for senior finals for some classes out in center field of Old Bush Stadium. And I'm out there, and I don't know if they keep, what's this kid doing? He's not even paying attention to the game. But who I hung out with, a lot of the journalism students, it was always hard to say goodbye to the people that were older. I remember, you probably know Steve Meixner.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, I've kind of lost touch. I see him on Facebook now and then, but the Meixner family, I believe at the time, his dad was principal at Macomb or something in that fathom. And
Yep.
I was invited over to their house, and it was just kind of that clique of people. We'd play golf together. We'd do silly broadcasting things, try to think of some for the news stories, be a little bit more creative. Who knows? I just remember certain people like that got me along the path. Professor wise, I can't thank Sharon enough, because to this day, Sharon and I still swap little emails back and forth, or she has a question, or a student that's going to be moving to Colorado. I think the other day they have a couple Western alumnus that they work at CU Boulder, but their son is very interested in the broadcasting program. And, I think he's in 8th grade and they want to instill that. And I said, I'd be happy to talk to him. And it's too bad with COVID and stuff. When I have those gigs downtown at the Rockies, I can usually get a day pass and have somebody come in and wow them.
Yeah.
Because the first time anybody steps in I want to say a real full on broadcasting truck where you've got 2 to 3 of those things, and they go in there, just blown away at all the monitors, the sound, the camera. It's like a circus world.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
Yes. I remember taking my daughter I said, okay, you're going to help me with some statistics. I'll get you a pass. You sit out here. And she couldn't believe we were courtside. And I'm like, well, this is where I sit. And luckily this is Division 2A game, because if this was Division 1, you'd be way up in the stands. And I showed her the mess. I said, well, over here's the graphics, here's the sound, and here's the camera shading guy, and they all have their little mission. And I think she just was blown away with the switcher, just the technical directing aspect, because the students you have doing technical directing now, wait till they get into a situation of a studio or said sports truck. That board is 3 to 4 times bigger and more buttons.
Yeah.
And it still confuses me today. I don't, but you see the outcome like on the Super Bowl, that to me is the creme de la creme of broadcasting people. When you get to that level, I'm still doing college hockey and maybe a few NFL games, and, which I'm very excited about. Any gig I get, it's pretty exciting in Colorado.
So let's talk about, you leave WIU and you start out on your career. Talk a little bit about how you got to where you are.
So I went through the VA, graduated there in May of '93. Knew I wanted to come back to Colorado. My uncle had lived out here at the time, and it wasn't as fully, I want to say, engulfed. I call it mini Los Angeles now because of the traffic.
Yeah.
Very new sports teams. You'd heard of the Denver Nuggets. Denver Broncos had sort of, hadn't hit the main stage yet with those Super Bowls and John Elway. The Veterans Administration got me a job with what was TCI cable at the time, just doing master control, loading tapes, logging, watching hundreds and hundreds of shopping infomercials. And I'll tell you, it'll bore you to death. But something was new that was starting in our building when we were bought by Comcast was the pay-per-view. We had pay-per-view, but it was in its infancy of just boxings and the WW, wrestlings. And you'd have to sit there, not watch it live once, but what you recorded it on these old D3 tapes, and you'd have to have it queued up to re-air once the copyright hit. So a lot of timing, coordination with the truck. Then these packages started showing up, and MLB Extra Innings, NBA League Pass, NHL Center Ice. So you're coordinating with each truck. And I already knew the broadcast part, how it comes to the saddle, how it leaves the truck, comes to us, how we adjust it, how we adjust the sound before Comcast puts it out as the package. So we started to do every NBA game, every NHL game, every MLB game of the season. And this went on for years. There were some games where we had to do commercial insertion because it was little black holes. And we had to do our fillers with pay-per-view packages. So a lot of that master control timing. I was more of a coordinating producer, meaning I made it look pretty. And, we got to put in this little bug in the corner that says brought to you by, so-and-so at this time. Or when you do ABC, they call it the meatball. And just, we had the return monitor, and then we had what the customer was seeing. And if those kind of had that little 1 second delay, everything was, and you had just billions of monitors just constantly. I can't watch TV today without seeing glitches because I've just got that trained eye. So I did that for 10 to 12 years. And it was just to the point where I was getting pretty high up, and ESPN had started doing their college football and basketball packages through us. And we do all their uplink to Bristol, and we take the games in and then turn them back to them, and then they could put it out on a pay-per-view package. So you paid for this package, and you got every college football game in the country before, the SEC started doing their network and all that other fun stuff. And somebody had saw me keeping score, just some little stats, just kind of, oh, well, he's 15 for 23 and 800 yards. Ooh, that's amazing. And they said, when teams come into Colorado, they don't bring certain positions. They look for people local. Would you be interested? And this was around baseball season. And I was like, interested? Well, I showed them all my scorebooks. I said, I do this as a hobby. 2 days later, I'm in the booth with ESPN, being as their statistician, handing them just gibberish and just how I saw the game. I was given that, I said, hey, what do people want when you're doing stats? And I remember asking the Broncos, they named the press box after the guy. And he said, be irreplaceable. Be that guy that they can always count on and this and that. And I said, well, what are they looking for? He goes, what are you looking for when you watch a game? And I went, what am I looking for? So I'd find those little tidbits or those little trends. And now I'm one of the statisticians when the NHL, I do all the away games. I do every college football game in the country that comes through here. If it's major, I already know the announcers and they're already reaching out to me and saying, do you want this gig? Baseball just depends on the team, or did someone not bring a position? But I think I said, like I told you, it's not just stats that I do. I can fill in at audio. I can fill in at camera. I can fill in at, I've been hired for an audio gig. I think the Bears were playing a preseason game here and the Bears hadn't run an A2 audio position. And I knew that position. So I said, I'll do audio. And then they go, oh, no, they didn't bring a stats guy. Well, the thing about stats is there's not too many of us that want to tediously think about the game, and the audio position could be easily moved. So I got moved right up to the booth. So I always bring a change of clothes, a extra laptop, pencils, pens. But I got through that position and somebody said, are you getting burnt out or tired? I know you're starting a family. Because like you said, Buzz, it's nights, weekends, holidays. And then the day you think you're going to be off, and they actually get mad at you when you take vacation, because I think the better you are, the higher events they give you, which are the ones that are really late at night, like the MMA boxings, or you kind of want to mess up so you can go back to the easy sports. But that's here nor there. I just remember just being, I had the birth of my daughter, and I was just so like, am I ever going to see her? And that's just a choice you make. And those guys that are on full time, this is why I do freelance, they are constantly busy. I mean, you're talking show, setup day, practice day, and then the event, and then the day after teardown. So that's 4 days of production that you're just, here nor there. So someone said, you'd be a great project manager, come help me in engineering. And then that grew. Then Comcast wanted me to move to Philly, and I had been with them for 20 plus years. And Charter said, well, you can be based in Denver and work for us. So I went to the competitor, but I still get the weekends off, and I can flux my schedule where if I've got a soccer coming up, it's the Kafka Cup where it's during the middle of the week. So I can work with my boss and say, I'm going to go work this soccer for Telemundo. And I don't speak Spanish, but I understand what their mission is.
Yep.
I think the first time I heard goal, I fell out of my seat. Like, we actually do this. So I've done a variety of sports in the Denver area, and I'm that irreplaceable guy. I'm that guy that somebody can call, and if I can get off work or I can finagle it, I'm there. I have so many, I need to get rid of a lot of them, but so many lanyards from so many different events that I've worked that the resume is just, now, if I did that full time, I could, but then again, I'm giving up my family life. Yep. And so it's how if you want to be that single guy and just, or gal, and just want to float through whatever, that's for you. I remember I did some roadie work with some audio and did some video for concerts and had to travel a little bit. Boy, you would talk about not being home and, thinking your hotel, you're in Minnesota, but you're really in Sacramento. I can see where bands get screwed up because I literally walked out of the hotel. Oh, well, we're in California. Sorry, Minnesota, but it can get like that if you're doing the road work type stuff. And I've got guy and gal friends that they do that for sports. I get pictures from them. Hey, I'm at opening day and, wherever, because their specialty is needed. I've done some NFL at away sites for CBS. They fly you in there, but it's not like just come in, do it. It's a 3-day commitment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you had mentioned that, because I think in sports broadcasting that people that really want to have a career in that have to make a decision about how that's going to impact their lives. And certainly I can relate to that. I think that it's been amazing career, Glenn. And, I think astonishing when you think about the experiences that you have and how sports in terms of the media exposure has grown so much. One of the things that I think is very similar to you and I is how it impacts our own, the way that we see the world. When you talk, and we talked a little bit before about how when we watch something, how we start to break it down and critically break it down in terms of, I can see this and I can see that, and this should be done over here. Or even as you had mentioned, this idea of always having a backup plan. I think that is a little bit about sports broadcasting as well. When you talk about being prepared for multiple roles, I see the same thing about how, you have to be prepared for anything to happen and to be so flexible.
I've got 3 different backpacks. One's my high analytics stats, and then I've got my utility backpack when I'm hired as a utility, and then I've got my stage manager my mystery backpack, that's got a little bit of everything, because I don't know if I'm going to need gloves. That's another thing. If you want to be a cameraman, I tried that. We had one guy get hypothermia at an Air Force game because he was on the higher third camera above the scoreboard, and this storm just came out of nowhere. Well, a little water got in his prepared and that moisture just took off. And luckily the game got suspended for a few quarters because of weather. And they got to bring him down and get him medical help. But Lord knows what would have happened if they left up there, and the standing so we're prepared for that. It's not just point and shoot. You got like 8 different jackets. Okay, I've got my foul, especially up here. I don't know if you knew this, that Wyoming, the University of Wyoming, is the highest level sports stadium in the country at 7,220 feet. And when you do games up there, just walking to the press box, am I that out of shape? But no, it's the altitude. And, that can get a workout there. But, I've had a lot of adventures, a lot of different scenery. I like Colorado, but I don't know if I want to call it, the end place, because it is getting a little bit, but because it's a major sports market now. And if your team does well, like say the Avalanche, I work 2 Stanley Cups. They need that help when they come in. Trust me, if it's a major event, I work 2 AFC championships. You're going to work. If you're part of this Ultimate Productions team that hires you, you're going to work. And if you're good at it, they're going to use you a lot. But then again, like we talked about, be prepared not to be at home much.
Yeah. The whole idea of where we're headed to in sports media, we have a lot of young people that are interested in that subject area, Glenn. And if you had the opportunity to talk to yourself, back in 1993 and say, be prepared for an amazing career, but one that's going to be very demanding, what kind of recommendations would you have for young people entering into the field today?
There's these healthcare classes you could should have been I think I was there during homecoming before COVID, and I did reiterate to some students that I got to talk to, and I said, have that backup plan. Your minor is way more important than you think. And I would recommend an IT background, something, because all that video now is at your disposal by a flash drive. Before you had to bring in a server that had all this stuff in it. But I've seen some ESPN broadcasts where they just bring in that little flash drive, stick it into the main computer, and they've got every stat, picture, background. And I think you probably get that from ESPN downloaded to you when you do those games on the Plus. But just imagine, oh, well, we don't have a headshot of Marcus so-and-so. You go click, 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 and you've got it within seconds, where before, well, we're not showing Marcus today. I just think it's just grown leaps and bounds, but have that aspect of where you understand from when you're producing in the truck, where's that signal going? And when that signal gets to where it's going, what are they doing with it? And then how does it go to the customer? If you understand that whole gamut, you're way ahead of the game. And if you can fix most of those problems in the truck without the help of the professors or things like that, and you understand that, you're way ahead of the game. I know guys that are cameramen, but they're also engineers. They can fix their own problems. They don't have to call the emergency standby tech or whatever. It's because they understand the whole. They're not just setting the camera up, point and shoot. They know the whole path. And that's why I said I was really good at stats, but I'm also good at stage managing, running. I can fill in practically anywhere except that technical director. There's just too many dang buttons. I got my shot to be assistant director for a college hockey game at the University of Denver. It was kind of like their plus channel for CBS, and it wasn't going out all over the world like the Masters. But I was excited about it because it was my first time I was going to get to control what, timing in and out of, working with New York on the phone and saying, okay, we're going to go to break in 5, 4. And I knew when they were coming back, and I'm working with the director, and, it was something new. And now I've got that on my resume of like, well, now I can phone AD, or I can assistant direct. And you just keep adding and shadowing in your off time. If you can get with most of these positions can be paid or not, just ask to shadow. Hey, I'm a aspiring Western Illinois student, and I'm interested in this. When this COVID stuff's over, go sit with a cameraman, or go sit, even if it's just a minor event, just gaining that knowledge and then talking the talk. But I'll tell you, relationships are key, because if it wasn't for working with that ESPN gentleman, I would have never, that whole domino effect would have never happened.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that networking aspect of it is
Yes.
something that you have to learn at an early age, that it's going to be about relationships with the people.
I can go up to the University of Wyoming anytime, and I know the whole system. If there's something I need because of those relationships I built, I can go to the sports information director. I can go to those people. I put them in my phone. If I need something, they're just so hospitable. And once you've built those relationships, just like any sport, they're going to be more, they're going to give you more. Where you burn that bridge, well, good luck.
Well, Glenn, I can tell you that in terms of our relationship, I think over the years, you were probably one of the first people that were kind enough to our department to send us a picture of you with your work. And I tell you, that is both inspirational and aspirational for students to see that, because that helps them see that as a possible career, or see that somebody has come before them and been successful. So I am always so appreciative of what you have given back to this department and this university. And I would just like to say, from the perspective of all the faculty that were here before, Sharon and Sam and Mike Murray and so many other people, we are proud of what you've done, and we are glad to have you as part of our family.
Oh, you are my family. I don't send you Christmas cards, but I do think, I think fondly, and even after I graduated, just keeping in touch with a few professors has just made me feel. And, I tried to get my daughter, she's a senior in college right now, to go to Western, but she doesn't want to go to Illinois, stay in Colorado. But even Sharon's like, if she wants to come here, I already have it. We're going. I bought her a shirt. And I'm so glad I made that decision to come to Macomb. It's at any time I visit Illinois, it's always a must to make the drive south. And it's another family I so greatly appreciate, because I was treated with nothing but the best, and the advisors and professors that geared me to what I learned and what I'm currently, I'm not sitting in the CBS booth without, meeting you folks in my life.
Well, we appreciate that, but there is a lot to say about your work ethic and your talent and your drive that has got you where you are, and we're glad to see that. And so glad that we've had this opportunity to catch up with you, because this is an opportunity to see a lot of folks around the country that we haven't been able to see person to person. So it's
right.
So great to see you. I know we're going to try to connect you with our faculty as well.
Please do.
For the future. So Glenn Taylor, thanks for joining today's podcast. And for those in the audience, make sure to, yeah, absolutely. WIU. Please remember to check in next week when we'll have another alumnus on the show. Until then, stay safe, take care, and God bless.